Students, we have a quick tutorial to begin our look into Photoshop. What I'm going to start with is loading an image that already exists. If you took advantage of taking a selfie, then you can load that. Otherwise, you're going to load one of the images that we started class with downloading from the shared folder of images. From the home screen, you can start a new file. Just like in Illustrator, you click the button. And also similar to Illustrator, you can see that you have some preset sizes in the menu here. And more of these will appear as you define more of them. Or you can set it right over here. You can set the width and the height. You can set it in inches or in other units of measurement. And you also can set the orientation, a portrait or a landscape. However, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to close this. If you took a selfie, I'm just going to have you open your selfie that you sent yourself, or I'm going to have you open one of the images that we downloaded from the shared folder into your personal folder. And now here's how I'm going to do that. I am going to click the Open button right below the new file, or you can also get to that in File and Open. You will notice the keyboard shortcut Control+O will let you open a file. Here we go, and then you're going to search that image. You're going to click on it, click the Open button, and there you have it. Look at that lovely picture of me. Well, you know, now that I look at it, that picture isn't so lovely. I've got some skin blemishes and some weird shadowing that I don't like. And notice my flyaway hair. Man, I need a haircut. If I'm going to use this as like a profile picture for social media or on a resume or something like that, I'm going to want to clean this up. Fortunately, that's what Photoshop helps us do. As you look at the layout of Adobe Photoshop, you will notice some similarities to Illustrator that we worked with. Your tools are over on the left, although if you look closely, you'll see that not all of them are the same. You've got your menus on the top, and you've got this other toolbar that runs across the top here as well. On the right, you will see properties of the components and tools that you have clicked on, and then you will see other tabs up here. And this is where you'll start to notice the difference from Illustrator. One big difference is the layers, at least when mine opens, are down here. And the layers are very important in Photoshop. For instance, I am on what you see as the background layer right now. When I loaded my image, it put it in the background. The background is going to limit what I can do with that layer. For instance, if I go over and click on the Move tool, this is going to let me move my image around, but watch what happens. I can't move it, and that's because it is stuck on the background layer. In fact, it gives me this image. So one of the first things I want to do is make myself a new layer, and I'm just going to go down the right hand side. Right down at the bottom, you'll see a little square with a plus. I'm going to click that, and it's going to open a new layer. And I can then copy and paste this in there, and I'm going to make sure that this layer 1 is highlighted. I am going to click the little garbage can symbol and delete it. I'll say yes. And I'm going to then go to my background layer. I'm going to right click and just click Duplicate Layer. That will give me an exact copy of it. Notice I can name this new layer. I am just going to call it Selfie 1. That is the layer of my selfie, and it's the first layer I'm going to make. Now I have it right here, my layer Selfie 1. Now you'll notice that this is an actionable image. I've got these corner boxes. That's going to let me resize it. Oh, hey, wait, what is this double image now? Well, remember, we made a copy of the background layer. So if I don't want to see that, notice way down here I've got the little eyeball showing. If I click that eyeball, that will make the background layer disappear. It's still there. And for now, I'm going to keep it in case I mess something up and need to go back and get my image again. Now, if I don't like the change I made, Control-Z on the keyboard is going to undo any of the changes that I made. I'm going to make that background layer go blind again. Notice now that the Move tool is not only going to let me resize the corners, it's actually going to let me move that layer around. All right, Control Z lets me put this back in place. The next tool I want to show you is right below the Move tool, the Selection tool. Notice there are a menu of selection tools. I'm just going to show you the Rectangle tool. It lets me select an area of the image. I get a menu of some options down here. I'm going to ignore those for now. If I want to just Control C, that will let me copy. And if I Control V, notice what happened. I have a new layer over here on the right, and it just has that selected piece that I copied. Look, if I make my second layer go blind, now you can just see this part of the image right here. The next selection tool, students, is the brush selection tool. You can see it's right here. Notice it has a little circle that goes around for you to select, paint the area you want to select. Up on this top toolbar, you can see that I can adjust the brush size from really big to really small. And if I just simply paint, like let's say I want to select my hair, I can just paint around my hair area, and then there. Once it's done, it fills in, and then if I grab that Move tool, you can see that that area I selected, there. Now I can move my hair, and Control Z will do the undo. By the way, if I Control C and Control V, now you can see I have a new layer that just has my selected hair on. This next selection tool, the fourth one down, is the Object Selection tool. And this is where Adobe Illustrator is going to use some AI. You can see when I mouse over, it has already kind of selected my head and body. And if I just want to select one thing, like maybe just my head, I can use the crosshairs and select the area around just my head, and then you can see that circle of dots. That means Adobe is thinking about it. And when it's done, it's going to give a selection of what its AI thinks I was trying to select. Sometimes this takes several minutes. Now, you can see that it used its guess to select. Now, it didn't have my neck, but it really does have just my face, glasses, and hair. And so then if I again want the Move tool, there it is. If I Control C and then Control V, boom, there's a layer, and that layer just has my face. Pretty cool. I didn't have to brush around anything. I didn't have to do any of that. There are ways where you can get Adobe to select, and then you can use the selection paintbrush, and you can add to the selection, subtract to the selection. There are ways to edit that. This is just the very basics. Another handy selection tool is again in the Object Selection tool. There is a Quick Selection tool with a paintbrush icon, and if I select that, notice now when I am selecting, Photoshop is doing a pretty good job of guessing. So if I just want my glasses and my eyes, I can just define that area. Now look, you notice that it's not perfect. That's okay. If you look up at the top here, I can click the minus brush, and this is going to let me deselect. So I can now go through and I can do some work. And then the closer I get, the more detailed Photoshop is going to make it. Now, obviously I'm doing this quick, but you can take some time, go through, and you can really be very specific about the areas of an image that you want to select. Now, again, I'll do the Control C copy, Control V paste. I have a new layer, and you can see what that looks like. And you can tell right here and around the nose area, there are some places, and I could go later and I can either do more selection or I could take an eraser. The next tool on the list is the crop tool over here on the left. And you can see that it put these little movement brackets on the corner and on the top and the side. And what you can use this for, it is not resizing the image, it is resizing the area that will define your image. So if you want to get rid of things in and around the background, and then if you like what you've got, just click done, and you can see you now have a new area around your image. All right, students, this next tool is kind of magic. It is skip 1, 2, and the third one down below the crop tool is the spot healing tool. It's got a little Band-Aid symbol right there. And notice you will see it up here on this toolbar or work bar. Maybe this would be a properties bar. And you can see you can set the brush size here. Mine's pretty small, so I'm going to keep it. And what this will do is automatically try to match the color around and let you heal the blemishes. If you look, for instance, at my nose, there's like an age spot right here. I'm just going to click it. Look at that, it's gone, and it's matched the surrounding skin tone. I've got a mole under my eye here. I'm just going to use the Miracle Spot tool. There it is gone. This little blemish on my head, there it goes, that old scar. This is a great tool to use to take care of any acne or any age spots or anything like that that you've got, especially if you are taking a selfie that you want to use for socials and you want to look your best. You can go ahead and repair those blemishes using this tool in Adobe Photoshop. Students, the next tool is the brush tool right here below the Band-Aid tool that we just used. And you can see that if I select my selfie layer, I can now use that brush. Look at, I've got a green color over here on the right, but it's very faded back, and that's because I have the opacity of that brush up here where it says 33%. If I make that 100%, now I can paint in that full color. I can also go over on the left here, and where it says 53, you can see that I have brush adjustments here. I can make it much bigger. There, I'm painting all over it, or I can make my brush much smaller. And you can also affect the hardness or softness of the brush. At 0%, you kind of get that nice fuzzy edge that helps you blend things in. The brush tool, of course, is good for just marking up things on your image. You can also tint things with it. Let me show you an example. I'm going to Control Z to get rid of those brush lines. What I am going to do is go back to my opacity, and I'm going to make it a little less, about 40%. 42 there. I am going to make my brush size about 50 pixels, and I am going to go and open up my layer. I'll make my selfie layer go dark, and I'll open up that layer that I made with my eyes and the glasses. And I'm going to select that layer so it's active. And by the way, if I want to see that closer, I can go down here to the magnifying glass, and if I click plus, it's going to make that bigger, and then I can adjust it here. If I hold the Alt key, you can see that it will minus out. So plus it up, Alt click to minus down. I'm going to plus up, and I am going to use my brush tool, and I am going to just paint around my eyes and just give this part of my image a nice green tint. There we go. I can still see my eyes, but now I've got greenish glasses. There we go. Now, if I hold the Alt key, got to get my magnifying glass again down here towards the bottom. Alt key, and I can minus myself out. And then if I turn on my selfie layer again, now you can see I've got those tinted glasses over on me. Again, it's just fun stuff you can do with playing around with the opacity on your brush tool. Below the brush tool is the clone stamp tool. Now what this is going to do, it's kind of like a paint dropper in that it is going to, if you, like for instance, on my hair, look at all this mess right here. You've got these strands that are coming way out of the rest of the hair. I don't like the way that looks. So I could erase, but then I would be erasing the background as well. So the clone stamp is going to copy the color in the background. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about here. I'm just gonna zoom in on this part of my image. And I'm gonna go back to that clone stamp. And right near my hair, I'm gonna head and stamp. Now it is saying could not use the clone stamp because the area has not been defined. Click here. Oh, it's because look at my down in the lower part, my layers. I have not made my selfie layer. So I'm going to click on the selfie layer. It's highlighted now. That makes it active. Let's try this again. I'm going to click and then it says Alt click to define a source point. Let's Alt and click. There it goes. And then I'm going to use this, and you can see like it's kind of like an eraser tool, but it is replacing what was there with the background. Before I finish this video, one more thing that is fun. You can see I've got quite a few layers here. I've got this top. In fact, I'm just going to delete this top one. Students, I've got my glasses. I've got that weird head. I'm going to go ahead and delete my head layer. Students, one more thing before we finish this long video. I made myself a quick layer where I cut, where I use the selection tool to get myself out of the background. I'm going to turn my glasses back on again, and I am going to create a new layer. That new layer, I'm also going to make the selfie layer appear with me in the background. I'm sorry, with the background behind me. And I'm going to create a new layer by the little plus symbol next to the garbage can. And I'm going to click that, and like I click and drag, and I'm going to put that layer between my cutout self, my glasses, and my selfie at the bottom. I'm going to use this layer, and I'm going to blind all of my other ones, and I'm going to use a gradient tool. That is right below the eraser here. And if I click on the gradient tool, you'll see I get a bar that appears up here. I've got a nice purple gradient, and what I'm going to do is click and drag across the canvas, and you'll see I get that nice gradient. And I can also go in my properties here, and if I scroll down, what I can do is I can, down here, the opacity I can change, and so you can see I can kind of dial it back so that the background can show through. Now I have got a, I'll turn on my other layers, and let me, I've got this layer, and then I've got my selfie layer, and then I've got my glasses. So now you can see that I have got the tint that is on top of my cutout self, which is right over the top of my background that's got this kind of stylized gradient going on behind it. So these are some cool things that you can do with the basic tools in Adobe Photoshop.